Greetings comic lovers and welcome back to Casually Comics. We're going to talk about a DC announcement. Events, they're being announced all the way up to the summer. I say it's too soon. But the hope is clearly that you're going to get on board the hype train and get excited, and also remember that these things are happening in July, because that's what we're going to look at. It's happening in July. I recently posted a video on Superman #1, the new 2023 Dawn of DC edition, and someone asked, did you see the announcement about the summer event? And I hadn't, so then I went and looked. It's called Night Terrors, with night spelled like a Knight of the Round Table, because of course it is. Yes, Batman's there. And yes, of course, because it's called Night Terrors, it's going to be spooky. Will it be spookier than this hair? I don't know. I'm sure you'll tell me down below. Now, Dawn of DC is meant to be a light relaunching of some of the titles in the DC universe. There's going to be some new status quos. It's meant to be building up excitement for a more optimistic and, in theory, streamlined DC universe. This after the Omniverse, where kind of everything went, but that's still in play as well. We'll see how it shakes up. It's just getting started, time to record it. Superman #1 was kind of the jumping on point, and it was pretty solid, so fingers crossed. Now, when they made announcements about Dawn of DC, or Dawn of DCU as it was called briefly, but now they seem to have settled on Dawn of DC, there was a chart that came out with some of the upcoming titles, and they announced some of the creative teams for various books that were coming out as well. But they had it fade out as it went into summer, and some people got really intense about it. They tried to play with the lighting and the contrast and Photoshop, try and bring out some of those last little letters, but it turned out they didn't have to put that much effort in, because only a couple months later they've announced what the big event is, and it's Night Terrors. So what exactly does that entail, and are you going to be excited for it? And a lot of that is going to depend not just on the description that I'm about to read to you, but also on how you felt about the past events, such as Dark Crisis or Lazarus Planet. Lazarus Planet has been a very interesting event in that it barely feels like an event at all. It's incredibly disjointed. But we're here to talk about the Comic Pros Retailer Summit, where some of the information about what was announced was revealed to the public. So what is Night Terrors? Let's just read their press release. Kicking off this July, Night Terrors is a mini-series in which Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman find the body of one of their earliest enemies at the Hall of Justice. Their investigation takes them past the land of the living, beyond the land of the dead, into a realm of nightmares. The only way to save the world is to call for the help of an unlikely hero, Deadman. Why is Deadman unlikely? Is it just because we haven't seen him do anything for a while? There was a heyday of Deadman. Maybe it's time for Deadman once more. Are nightmares beyond life and death? Sandman might want you to think so. But wait, there's more. The horror-focused event will take over the DC publishing line in July and August, and will feature multiple two-issue miniseries from superstar creative teams yet to be announced. TBD, my favorite creative teams. Each of the miniseries will feature a DC superhero or supervillain confronting their worst nightmares in a nightmare realm. There's quotes from Nightmare Realm there, like Nightmare Realm? The superheroes better be careful, as whatever happens to them in the Nightmare Realm will also be reflected in the waking world. If you die in the dream, you die in the real world. But is this also like if you dream that you have extra arms and you're Octopus Jimmy, you wake up and you are Jimmy the Octopus? Right? Now I'm the only six-armed man on Earth. But do you know something? Just after I signaled you, it suddenly hit me that having 6 arms can be fun. Watch me do my morning push-up exercise. It's as easy as pie with 6 arms. I can do 100 push-ups a minute. Because what might be a nightmare to some might be a wonderful fantasy for someone else. So who is helming this event? Because those two-issue miniseries are going to be tie-ins to the main event. And hopefully they are more like tie-ins than, say, the tie-ins of Lazarus Planet, which have very much just been one-shots and previews and vignettes. They feel very, very loosely connected. So if we're going to have that many tie-ins, like Convergence-level tie-ins, it would be nice if they feel more connected to the main event. But those type of tie-ins of they're in their own nightmare world also sound very reminiscent of the type of tie-ins that went into Dark Crisis, where it was the dead Justice League who were trapped in their dream realities, but they weren't really dreams at all. In fact, some of them were more like nightmares. And then there were really random tie-ins that didn't feel like they had anything to do with anything and had many continuity errors. It's worth bringing some of that up because Dark Crisis, the main event, was helmed by Joshua Williamson, who is also going to be the head of this one. It's a lot of events, it's a lot of work. Some of the artists they have deigned to name so far are Howard Porter and Guillaume March. I see Harley on one of these preview art pages. I hope that's just there because they're banking on our popularity. I don't need another Harley Nightmare Realm. Do you know right now, DC, there are 2 multiverse Harley events running concurrently, time of recording. There's one happening in her main book, and then there's a Harley messes up the DC universe that's happening on the side as well, and they're almost the exact same premise. That has nothing to do with anything. I just felt that you should know that. Now, before we get into this event, there is going to be a free comic book day special that they've also announced, and it's going to revolve around Damian. So of course, I have to tell you about that one too. Hold on. Dramatically. After a long night of crime fighting with his father, Batman, Damian Wayne sleeps, but horrors invade his teenage dreams. Damian has seen a lot lot, but there is something different about this nightmare. Is it Katy Perry themed? Because that's what I thought when I heard Teenage Dreams. He fell asleep listening to an old Katy Perry album and now it's just haunting him. That one is going to be helmed by Williamson, Porter, and also Chris Bacalo, who they're very much hyped to have back because it's his first DC project since 2002. Williamson, ever the hype man for his own projects, which is a good thing because sometimes they don't get that much promotion, had this to say about the event. I love horror comics and it's been a blast bringing the energy to Dawn of DC. Night Terror showcases the horror side of our heroes as a brand new villain confronts them with their worst nightmares. It's a fun, horrific event that brings together all of the heroes and villains of DC along with some surprises. A new villain? Did we need a new villain for this? There are so many villains who already do this. Dr. Destiny is feeling very left out. What about some kind of Sandman crossover? I swear there are more. There are more already nightmare-themed villains that exist that could have done this. They have dropped a bunch of covers, including some variants by Francesco Mattina, and the free comic book day special is set to arrive May 6th. All of this is too far in advance. Of the 3 variant covers they dropped, I think Batman's is the most horrific. Wonder Woman just looks cool. It doesn't look like a nightmare at all. At least not to me. Mileage may vary. Share your thoughts. If you're gonna go horror, I'd like to see some of these variants go extra hard. Maybe not for the main covers, but some of these variants could get just, you know, nasty if they wanted to. Or at least have a lot of fun with them, like how some of the Deceased covers did, where they riffed off of horror movie posters. The general Night Terrors logo that they're using also, it looks like it's something for a CW show, or a graphic for a DLC for the Gotham Knights video game. So DC plans to bring you that horror level energy for the summer. I don't know, this sounds like it should be a Halloween event. Not that you have to force horror into Halloween, you can be horrified any time of the year, but it just feels like it would potentially bring more excitement if it was closer to Halloween, in my opinion. Now, on the whole, reactions have been mixed. Some people have expressed disappointment. They thought that it was going to be something more grand. If you were expecting something different, I want to know what you were expecting. Are you concerned because it's called Night Terrors that's gonna hyper focus on Batman? Do you think that this could be a fun premise but that it doesn't need to be a whole event? Or are you just straight up hyped? I think mileage is gonna vary a lot depending upon who's on which book and which characters they use and just how they play it. Of course it's far out, so we'll have to see, but it doesn't sound like it'll be the most even event, at least in the tie-in section. What do you think? Do you want to see the heroes and villains go to a nightmare realm, or would you like something a bit smaller and more self-contained? Or does the idea not appeal to you at all? Do you like things being announced this far in advance? Does it get you excited? If it does get you excited, do you manage to maintain that excitement up until when the event happens? Do you ever even hear that these things are happening? Because the marketing for some of these things can be very slipshod, and if you're not hanging out in certain corners of the internet or fandom, you can entirely miss them. They can just be gone. For example, they also announced that Jonathan Hickman is coming back to the Ultimate Universe over at Marvel. Are you more excited for that than this? Do you care about any of this? I have many questions. On the whole, as with anything, I'm sitting on planet neutral. We'll wait and see how it is when it comes out, but I want to hear from you. Is this up your alley? Do you feel like Dawn of DC so far, even though it just started, is heading in the right direction? I want to hear it all. Share your thoughts down below. And while you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you don't miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some of your day spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it. I will see you again soon. This was a nice breather in between tackling Ant-Man Anniversary and also the Clayface One Bad Day, which many thoughts on both. So of course, as always, there's more fun videos coming up, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.